Well, I know today's press conference is, the continuation of our non-conference season, and especially coming off the heels of the three very prominent games in Maui, and where we move from here with the big week ahead of us. But, also it's to talk about our future, next season's incoming recruiting class, and it's something that is proud of the moments you have in sports. I would say this is number one on my list because going back to early April, late March, the coaching staff that we have here at Arizona, in essence, brought 11 players to our program in a 7-month window. That's really, really hard to do, and especially in climbing the mountain of adversity that we've certainly been responsible for climbing. I would say that we've worked 7 days a week, oftentimes 20 hours. We have assistant coaches, Danny Peters, Justin Gainey, Marc Phelps, that at times slept in the office, worked around the clock, traveled internationally from coast to coast to make that happen. And the effort that I was a part of is unprecedented in my lifetime as a college basketball player or coach. And it's more of that effort and that togetherness of our own staff and program that I'm the most proud of, and certainly elated to be able to welcome the class that we have, and quite a few of those that are actually on our team right now. In terms of Marc Phelps, he's been the one assistant coach that's been with me through thick and thin from the longest period of time, and I think he's one of the nation's best. He certainly was a big part of the 2019 class coming together, and in large part it was his leadership with the other members of our staff that really led us to where we are today. And we've had some excellent recruiting classes in my time at Arizona, and as you guys know even better than me, there's been some excellent recruiting classes before I ever showed up in this state. Some of the greatest players that have played this game, some of the greatest coaches that have ever coached this game have been a part of this program before my staffs and we showed up 10 years ago. But today is very, very gratifying because only a few of us know how hard it was, the work ethic, the time spent, and when you work that hard and you kind of see it happen, I think you walk away with your head held high. So with that, I'm going to go through the 4 players that have signed the national letter. As you're well aware of, there's a 5th that I can't talk about, but all 5 were extremely, happy and elated to have. But to the ones that I'm allowed to talk about, Terry Armstrong from Bella Vista here in Phoenix, but kind of born and raised in the state of Michigan. And I say that because I think Terry brings a toughness to our program that I think all of us love to have as coaches. He also has great size for a wing and guard, about 6'6". It's not that he does one thing well, it's the versatility, I think, that jumps off the page when you watch him. And I think the best is yet to come. He's in a program right now that's playing against the best competition in America at the high school level. And I'm really excited for him, anxious for him to have a great senior year, but I think he'll be able to come in and impact our program right away. Christian Koloko is the second member of our recruiting class. He attends Sierra Canyon High School in Los Angeles. Last year he played high school basketball with Devonair Dutrieve, who's a part of our program right now. But Christian is a player that we targeted almost from day one for 2 reasons. One, he's 7 feet tall, and he's got great hands. He started playing basketball in middle school, and he's an international student that comes from a great family, but also an excellent student. But I think the best is yet to come for him. His ability to catch the ball, his work ethic, I think his unselfish manner, gives you somebody that can play the center position in the way the game is played today. He's the furthest thing from just a plotter or a 7-foot project. I think his mobility on offense and defense might be his greatest gift. And I look forward to really helping him and working with him to develop him. And both Terry and him have that in common, and that I think physically, because they love the game of basketball, they work at it, but I think they're just athletic gifts give them the opportunity, regardless of who you judge them as being now. I think the best is yet to come down the road for both of those guys. Josh Green, Josh is somebody that we started recruiting, many years ago from Australia. Certainly we got to know his family very well, and he's at IMG Academy right now in Florida. But, Josh can play really either wing spot. I think his shot is really developing. That's probably the thing that's happened the most for him in the last 4 or 5 months. Even though he had shoulder surgery, just watching him shoot the ball, he's really on a great track. And I say that because everything else is really in place. He has a 6'11" wingspan. He's physically strong right now. He has a chance to be an excellent defensive player, but someone who has limitless potential. And again, a lot like Terry and Christian, great teammate, somebody who loves the game that we've known for a long time. And again, regardless of who he is today, I think we have a lot to work with and develop to allow him to grow and become an even better player. But obviously, amazingly excited to have Josh as well. The fourth player is Nikko Mannion from Pinnacle High School here in Phoenix. And I give Nikko a lot of credit because he was the first to jump on board. And true to being a great point guard, you lead from the front both on offense and defense, but oftentimes you lead off the court as well. And in so many ways, him and his family made it okay to come to Arizona this fall. And he paved the way for others to join him. Obviously, Josh Green and him are very good friends because they play on the summer circuit together. But, Nikko is somebody that walks in the door with great size and athleticism, but I think a complete and total understanding of how to play the position. I wouldn't consider him just a pass-first point guard. I would call him an all-everything point guard. He can score. He can really finish in transition, but he also knows how to get others involved. So, again, the physical characteristics of our recruiting class, the size, the athleticism, and kind of who these guys are today and maybe who we can invest and work with in our strength and conditioning program on and off the court to make them bigger, faster, stronger, and develop them as players. I really think we got a great potential. None of these guys are finished products, and I think that's what's maybe the most exciting about them. And they also all come from excellent families, very unselfish kids, great teammates, and from a character perspective, I think each of them are impeccable. So with that, we're very excited, and like I mentioned, for me, the excitement and I think the gratification in all this is nobody completely understands the time that was spent, the hours, day and night, since last April to allow us to get both feet on the ground here moving forward.
There's been a lot made nationally that you put this class together despite having all the investigation clouds over it. I mean, do you feel like that stuff's behind you, that you're able to do this?
I learned a long time ago, the great parents, myself, a dad, keep your mouth shut and just work hard. And, everybody talks about culture in sports. Culture is what you guys write about, a program and a coach and people. And identity is what you control. That's what we do every day, our players, how we handle ourselves. And if the identity here is shut up and get the job done, well, then I'll take that. But that's what we do.
Is it a common trait that maybe all these recruits share that when you're looking at them, felt like you could have a solid group at this time?
Number one, character. that they care about being a part of something that's bigger than themselves. I think you learn that by who their mom is, their dad, their guardian, how they treat their high school coach, how they treat their brothers, sisters, how they are on the court with their own teammates, whether they win or lose, do they care? And I think that was the starting point with all of them. And then obviously you delve more into their talent and fit. Do they fit this program? This is a basketball program that wasn't invented upon my arrival. As a matter of fact, I would say that a decade ago, most people would have fallen in the category of, will Arizona ever be the same? Because Coach Olson did it at such a high level, a high Hall of Fame level. And if you ask him, he did it with excellence across the board. But the number one thing he got right was he recruited great people and unreal talent. If you pull out some team photos, and you could pick any year, you're going to see just a handful of great people and players that made up the teams that he coached. So, from that perspective, that's how I would answer that.
You talked about how you've been fortunate enough to get excellent recruiting classes. Where would you put this one?
I think it's one of our best. We have depth, certainly filled a need. I wasn't able to talk about all of the guys because of NCAA rules, but I think when you add everything in, it is a very deep class with, I think, a lot of answers, for us as we move forward in our future.
You actually have letters of intent for? Is that what you were talking about? And it sounds like Zeke is just the scholarship papers, or what?
There's one.
Okay. Well, I was wondering in the sense of...
Oh, no, I got it. There's two. There's three. There's four.
Are you still looking to try to go to 6 overall?
It all depends on how we move forward. There's a lot of change in college basketball in the spring, and being able to add to this group is something that I think we're really excited about. But also, I think with the players that we have returning that are currently on this year's team and the group in total that we're bringing in, I think our purpose now is to kind of forge ahead into the 2020 class and, have the opportunity to build and to maybe have one every bit as good as this one or better.
Nikko kind of paved the way for the rest of the class. Did you identify him as a guy that would maybe lead to this, or did it just work out that way that he committed first and everything fell into line?
It kind of worked out that way. Obviously, with Josh Green and Nikko Mannion, we had the longest standing relationship with their families. I think they learned who we are, and we have, a trust between all of us that extends beyond this past summer. And that's not saying that's not the case in the others that we've gotten, but because of the location of Josh and Nikko relative to our campus, Phoenix, we were able to build that relationship. But Nikko comes from a unique situation in that his dad and mom are both really professional athletes. His dad, Pace, has been there and done that. He's played in the NBA. He's played in college basketball. You're not going to trick him. He knows what's going on. He knows right from wrong. He knows how the game's played. He's been there. And I think that, Nikko coming from that type of house, allowed him to kind of be that first person to come here. But no question, he's a very exciting player. And when you're a point guard like him, others want to play with you as well. It's not that he was just the first person that came to our recruiting class, but, other guys love to play with a point guard who knows what's going on, who's talented. And I think that was also part of the lure for the rest of the guys to be able to join us.
Is Nikko reminiscent of any point guard you've had here?
He really isn't. His size and his athleticism stand out, but I think his ability to both be a playmaker and a scorer, in some ways, in many ways, separate him. And I've had a lot of guys, through several of our seasons, we've had a kind of your consummate pass-first point guard. and then we've had smaller point guards, and then we have combo guys. But I think Nikko really embodies the qualities of today's point guard.
Does him reclassifying change the expectations at all?
Not really. That's kind of the way it works today. It's different today than it once was, and everybody comes into college basketball eager to prove themselves early. And the other part for our class, this class right here, is we really need them to come in the door ready to go. And I know there's a number of them that will be able to do that.
Obviously, you got other guys to mix in, but next year. But I mean, could you see Nikko, Josh, and Terry all playing together at 1, 2, 3 at times?
I can't really answer that right now, just because we have quite a few players that are at the beginning of their sophomore years, junior years, and we have quite a few players that are on our current team that are tremendous and are off to really good starts. I think what serves a program well is when you're not counting just on the incoming class, but you have a blend of returning players in addition to a recruiting class that gives you depth, experience, talent. Injuries happen. Certain players in a given night maybe don't play a very good game. That happens as well. And on given nights, you want depth, and you want to be able to count on more than just 5 players. So I think the depth moving forward can be really healthy, and that's something that in the last 5 or 6 years we've been fortunate to have, and we want to get back to having that.
What's the Stone Getting still on track for arriving next month, and you're still planning on sitting him out this year and playing him next season? Part of this class in a way.
Stone will be here at Christmas. After Christmas, he's going to graduate from Cornell and be able to practice with us. And we're obviously extremely excited about him as well. I think anytime that you're a transfer student and you have the opportunity to learn our system and practice and get comfortable with kind of a new surrounding environment, not only on the court but off the court as well, it's helpful. It's really helped Chase Jeter, and I think it'll really help Stone as well. And again, Stone, his ability to shoot the ball and play a variety of different positions, you start talking about experience, talent, versatility. He really has all 3 of those.
I mean, I know you've made it clear it's for next year, but is there any chance he would play this year if you really needed him and he was willing or anything like that?
No chance.
And then if you get, I mean, things always change in the spring, and like you said, maybe you might even need another guy. But right now, technically, you're 1 over. I mean, is that any concern if it's sort of the opposite? Whereas last spring you had 6 guys, I think.
Yeah, I mean, certainly we're trying to run our program as best that we can with the information that we have, and I think every spring brings change, and we want to be prepared for that change, and really that's what we'll spend the next 4 or 5 months doing. But I also talked a lot about how important the 2020 class is, and really forging ahead here at an earlier period of time than we were able to last year, and try to back this class up with one that's every bit as good a year from now.
As a coaching staff, switching to the current team if I can, as a coaching staff, what can you guys do to get Ryan Luther more looks?
Ryan injured his hand in the Iowa State game, and we're fortunate that he has the resolve and toughness to play in the next 2 games, which he did. He wasn't 100%. I think he'll return back to form here this week and kind of like next week as he's dealing with it. But that certainly affected his aggressiveness, and rightfully so. The fact that he played is a testament to his unselfishness and the type of kid he is. But he wasn't at his best in Game 2 and Game 3 at Maui. But you're right, and I think that's a very good point. The challenges for us as a coaching staff is to get the very best out of all of our players. And I find the challenge offensively here is we have so many new faces that it almost takes a month of this year to really understand like what works, what doesn't, maybe what we can do to better suit each of these guys individually on offense. And I wish I had it right from day one, but, some of our errors in Maui, it's just organization. It's just being more organized, being more detailed, putting someone like Ryan Luther in a position to call his number and make sure that we get a balance of throwing him the ball around the basket more. He's not someone who's going to take it upon himself to do that. He's going to have to do it with our help. So that's one of many things we learned in Maui. But I'll tell you that that's also the blessing when you play in a tournament like that. There's no secrets anymore. You kind of feel good about the things you're good at, with the hope that you can just improve on those things. And then, your concern on the weaknesses that your team has is real. And now it's just a matter of where we can go from a week ago to this week to a month from now. So we've learned quite a bit, to your point, especially about offense. What is it that each of our players can do, and what is it that we have to take away or add to maybe help our team score? And, Chase, I thought when he got the ball in scoring position, man, he had some great one-on-one inside baskets. And, you can score against that type of competition. I think he proved to all of us, including himself, that ball has to get in there a couple more times each half so that maybe we can get a foul or an easier two-point shot from him. So that's the answer to both your questions about someone like Chase Jeter and Ryan Luther. And but that's also, 1 and 2. Everybody wants to win every game, but losing to Auburn and Gonzaga, being able to learn what we've learned, I think there's a healthy dose of optimism we have that we are going to be better by leaps and bounds because we went through that experience.
How's your team responded after those 2 emotional games in practice?
They've responded well. I mean, we're at the very beginning of a long season, and I think everybody in our locker room understood before we took the trip to Maui that we were going to play against 3 good teams. Maybe one great one very good one, and one good team. But I think all 3 teams that will be in this year's tournament, and 2 of them will probably have very high seeds. So you have to play great basketball. And we had our moments in each of the 3 games, but we were really incapable this early in the season with our group to be real good from start to finish. Even against Iowa State, it ended up working to our advantage, but we didn't play very well through a lot of stretches of that game. And it just was flip-flopped. In Gonzaga and Auburn, it was more the ending, whereas against Iowa State, it was more the first half.
If you are willing to detail, was that Ryan's shooting hand, and what exactly was it? I mean, it wasn't like an Alonzo month-long deal or anything, is it?
No, it's his non-shooting hand, and he's going to be okay. But in fairness to him, I owe him the truth in that if you start keeping stats of what he did in Maui, it's unfair to judge him because he played 3 games in 3 days, with an injury that, a lot of guys would have sat out. But he's doing fine. He's practicing here today. And I think that, every day that goes by and each week that moves forward, he'll move closer and closer to 100%. But that would have helped us a tremendous amount if we had him at 100% for all 3 games, for sure.
After the Auburn game, you suggested that the coaching staff will have to get Devonaire ready to play more. Has that played out in practice since you returned?
Yeah, and he's close. It's just that when you play another player, you're going to take away from someone else. And sometimes it's a starter. You just want continuity, and we want to put Devonaire in a good light. He's not that far off. You've seen when he's gotten his opportunities here in McHale that he's made some good plays. Like any freshman, there's a big learning curve on defense, and I think that he's getting better every day. But he's talented. He has a great attitude, and I think being able to put him in the game, it's something we need to find out because he could help us with some energy and playmaking that we need right now off the bench.
Recruiting question. I was curious about Christian's story and where I don't think he's been in the States that long. When did you find out about him and what kind of caught your attention, I guess?
Well, we saw Christian play when we watched Devonaire in high school, and we made him a priority from day one. When you talk to him on the phone and you learn his family background, and his sister Stephanie's here in the States with him, and what she's done to sacrifice. You know, it's a great story. He's a high character kid, very, very bright student, and someone who hasn't been playing the game very long. And when you watch him run and see his size and think about what he can become, you know, part of what we really believe in is our strength and conditioning program. It's really not failed us. Any player that we've had that hasn't developed physically, it really falls more on them than what we do here. And so with that, I think when you plug somebody like Christian and his work ethic and his love of the game and his desire into what we have, I think it's a great fit.
Redshirt year, what area did he grow the most during that time?
You know, I think he regained his confidence. You know, Duke's program speaks for itself. It's the best of the best of the best. But he didn't have that opportunity to play a lot. And, you know, it's just like any player, regardless of what program that you play in, coach you play for, you know, it's really not personal. Eventually you want to get that opportunity in games. When you don't get that opportunity and you've been injured as well, which he was, you know, 2 years go by and you know what, you start to doubt yourself. You know, you're not as confident as you once were. So I think it allowed him to step back from competition and take a deep breath. Obviously playing against DeAndre every day, Dusan, you know, Keanu, you know, those guys are talented and different from each other. So the practice environment that Chase was a part of, the strength and conditioning element, and just working extra after practice. You know, he worked a lot with Lorenzo last year. He worked with Marc Phelps as well. So, you know, Chase is an incredibly hard worker. But I think just being able to step away from that spotlight, regain his confidence and belief in himself, and I think he would be the first one to tell you that. But I was really excited to see how he played in Maui. One of our bright spots.
We have time for one more question.
Can you discuss Georgia Southern a little bit? And it looks like they're real heavy, get in the lane, don't shoot a lot of threes, maybe pretty up-tempo. What do you expect, I guess?
You know, Georgia Southern is going to be one of our biggest challenges all season, not just in non-conference, but in our conference season. I like to use the word alarming when describing their talent, but, you know, part of it is it's exciting because, you know, if you're a team that plays Georgia Southern, I mean, you're trying to beat an excellent team. It's a game that in March will have great meaning for all of us, not just Arizona, but I look at their talent level, their experienced talent. Their point guard is outstanding. They have multiple 1,000-point scorers, and those two guys aren't even the leading scorer on this year's team. They're undefeated. They play again tonight. They play an exciting style. They really push the ball up and down the court. Very well coached. I have a confidence about them. They were down by as many as 20-plus points in the second half against George Mason on a neutral court. George Mason is a very good program with an outstanding coach. And final score of that game was Georgia Southern won 98-89. So they outscored George Mason by almost 30 points in a 20-minute period. Away from, you know, so, and that was, I think a home game for them. But I think that just says it all. But they'll be 6-0 or 5-0 right now, and we expect just a hard-fought game. We'll have to play better than we played in Maui for 40 minutes to beat them.
Thank you, everybody. Sophomore forward Ira Lee here. Go ahead and fire away.
Maybe the most important thing you guys were able to take away from the trip to Maui?
You got to play hard all the time, and you got to play together all the time. You know, we showed a lot of good flashes of, you know, when we actually were all on the same page, we can do some really good things. But as you saw, second half Gonzaga, second half Auburn, we fell apart. But we'll fix that. You know, it's early in the season, it's November, so we're not really worried about that.
How's practice been since coming back from that?
It's been great. You know, we've been practicing hard. Definitely working on our weak points. Watched a lot of film and just getting ready for Thursday's home game.
Anything else for Ira?
Will you guys talk about this game on Thursday yet, or are you mostly working on your own stuff at this point? I was just curious, like, what your thought about Georgia Southern is.
No, we know they're a hard playing team. They're 5-0. They have, I think, 4 to 5 respectable guys. They all can score. They all rebound. I think they're like top 15 pace. They have a big man. He's top 5 offensive rebounder. So we got a load on Thursday. It's not going to be a cakewalk. And obviously, people know we don't lose a lot of games in McHale, so they're going to give us their best shot.
What's it been like this year in general so far for you? I mean, you guys knew up front that there'd be a lot of pressure on you, not being terribly deep up there. You're all expected a lot. I mean, did Maui kind of reveal anything else along those lines, or what you really need to do?
Mm-hmm.
In the post, particularly you guys.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think the Maui trick shocked a lot of people. People thought we were going to do a lot worse than what happened, and I think the Maui trip gave us confidence. It gave us, it showed us, like I said, a glimpse of what we could really do, and I think we have a chance to be a very good team down the line.
What do you guys have to do to improve on as far as rebounding goes?
Mm-hmm. Rebounding, that we just have to do as a unit. I mean, all 5 guys have to box out. It can't be 2 or 3 guys boxing out. It has to be all 5. We don't have that as much size as we've had in the past. I mean, last year we had 2 7-footers, but this year, there's no room for error. So everyone has to box out. Everyone has to do their job, and we just have to be disciplined.
How important was Justin's scoring on that trip to Maui?
It was really important. I mean, he didn't score that much before that trip, so I'm happy he finally got his confidence. And he's been talking about it for a while. I'm gonna open up eventually. So that's what he did, and he showed how good of a scorer and confident of a scorer he is.
Have you guys had to talk to him about being a little bit more aggressive and looking for his shot?
No, we knew that's something that's gonna come. I mean, he's new to this team. He's an older guy, but he is still new to this team, new to this system. So he's still getting used to things, and I think he's getting comfortable day by day.
Anything else? Thanks, Ira.